What if truth isn't something you find, but something you build? That's the big idea we're diving into today. We're exploring a philosophical revolution that completely flips our understanding of reality on its head, a huge shift from a world of what simply is to a world of what is known.
So let's just start with the question at the very heart of this whole thing. Is truth something we discover, something that's already out there in the universe, or is it something we actually create right here in our own minds? And trust me, how you answer that, well, it changes absolutely everything.
Think about it this way. On one side, you've got truth as discovery. This is like an archaeologist who finds a lost city. I mean, that city, its streets, its buildings, they were always there, right? Buried under the sand, just waiting to be found. But then you've got the other side, truth as creation. This is more like an architect with a blueprint. A skyscraper doesn't exist until they've imagined it, designed it, and actually built it from the ground up.
Okay, so to really get the revolution, we've got to understand what it was rebelling against. Let's talk about the old guard, the classical view, the world of is.
So the classical idea, you might have heard it called Platonism, is that mathematical truths, like 2 + 2 = 4, they just exist out there. They're part of some perfect abstract reality. They're just facts of the universe, completely independent of us. They were true long before humans ever showed up, and they'd still be true even if we were gone.
But then, someone came along and said, hold on a minute. A completely radical new way of thinking popped up to challenge all of that. And this is where we enter the world of is known. This is the intuitionist revolution.
And yeah, this is where the whole game changes. Intuitionism argues that we should forget about what just is out there somewhere. Truth is about what we, as humans, can actually know. In this worldview, mathematical ideas aren't discovered. Nope, they're invented. They are creations, constructions happening right inside our heads.
So how does this work? Well, it's got these core ideas that all kind of stack on top of each other. First, knowledge is king. If you can't know something, it's basically irrelevant. Okay, but where does knowledge come from? Well, it has to be grounded in our actual sensory experience. This leads to this pretty wild conclusion. Mathematics isn't the study of the universe, it's the study of how our own minds work. And the final piece? For something to be true, you have to be able to build it, prove it with a real, tangible construction. And all of that gets boiled down to this one really powerful quote. Mathematical reality is exhausted by the reality of thought. Just let that sink in for a second. What it's saying is, there's no secret mathematical world out there. If our minds can't conceive it and construct it, it just doesn't exist, period. Now, when you put these two ideas side by side like this, you really see how massive this shift is. I mean, look at this. Every single one of these huge concepts, truth, math, reality itself, it all flips. It goes from being something out there that we just find to something in here that we actually make. It's a complete 180. All right, so if truth is something we create, the next logical question is, how? How do we actually do it? And that brings us to the really practical side of all this, the idea that a proof is a tangible construction. See, for an intuitionist, it is absolutely not enough to just say, oh yeah, a solution to that problem exists somewhere. Nope, not good enough. If you want to say something's true, you've got to roll up your sleeves and provide the actual step-by-step method to build the answer, a method that someone else can take, follow, and verify for themselves. Truth has to be effective. The best way to think about it is like a recipe for truth. Step 1 is your assertion, your claim. I can bake a killer chocolate cake. Okay, cool. Step 2, you provide the verifiable method. Here's the recipe itself. But step 3 is the most important part. You actually have to bake the cake. You execute the construction. Only then, when there's a real cake on the table, have you actually proven your assertion. It's all about showing, not just telling.
Okay, this is all fascinating for philosophers and mathematicians, but why does any of this matter in the bigger picture? Well, this gets into something we can call the mind's great leap.
So what's the big takeaway here? Ultimately, intuitionism puts a hard boundary on knowledge itself. It challenges us to look at all these so-called truths we just take for granted, and it asks a really tough question. If you can't actually build it or verify it, can you really, honestly claim to know it exists at all?
This whole problem is at the heart of what the famous mathematician Henri Poincaré called the discontinuity jump. Think about it. Our direct experience of the world is messy, it's continuous, but our scientific theories are clean, they're abstract, they're discrete.
So how in the world do we make that leap from one to the other? It's a huge jump. And intuitionism's answer is that the only way to safely make that leap is by grounding every single abstract idea in something we can actually construct and experience.
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating, kind of mind-bending final thought. If the intuitionists are right, if truth really is a creation of the mind, then the entire universe of what is true and what is knowable is defined by the boundaries of our own cognition. So the ultimate question becomes not what's out there, but what are the limits of our own minds?